Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first session of the day of the CGI Women in Tech Career Lab on the topic of the power of mentorship and sponsorship. My name is Kendra Gowdy. I'm one of the CGI Health and Wellbeing consultants on the Oxygen team. I want to just give you a quick introduction about Oxygen and give you an idea of what we'll be talking about today. So Oxygen at CGI is our health and well-being center of expertise and is comprised of a multidisciplinary team specializing in workplace health and well-being. We perform and plan different monthly health and well-being initiatives for all of our employees, create and share helpful and pertinent tools and resources to support our employees' health. And through our internal web platform, we host all of our different internal resources, offer consultation services to support the employees' ergonomics, work management, general well-being, etc. So before you get into the session today, I just wanted to share some quick tips with you like we do internally at CGI. As you know, virtual events and virtual meetings, as interesting as they can sometimes be mentally draining, can cause visual fatigue. You can maybe experience some muscle discomfort or aches and pains from sitting for long periods of time. So I want to just share some quick tips on how you can stay feeling good throughout the next hour of this session and throughout whether or not you attend the other sessions or just throughout the rest of your meetings and tasks for the rest of the day. So I have 3 tips to share with you really quickly, and I do encourage you to take note of these if you are interested. The first one is not to stay seated in a static position the entire time. When we talk about this, we really like to encourage our employees at CGI and those in the community who are joining events like these to make sure that you're changing positions relatively frequently. Try to avoid sitting for longer than 30 minutes if you can, and give yourself the opportunity to change your position, get your body moving in a way that is suitable for you based on your abilities, and get your body moving, your blood flowing, your heart pumping a little bit more to help you stay present in sessions like these. If you haven't changed your position in, the last hour or so between meetings and before joining this session, I really encourage you to do so. And I also encourage you to take the opportunity to move around or maybe take this as a standing or walking session if you prefer. This will help you maintain your focus at the most optimal state. The second tip is really to minimize and avoid multitasking. Multitasking is something that I find a lot of us at CGI tend to do because we have a lot of tasks at hand. And I know that this is also something that can be really prevalent in the external community as well. If you can really avoid or minimize the multitasking that you're doing, this will help you to stay focused on one thing at a time. We encourage you to have only this one browser open or the one video chat open, whatever you're using on your device. Mute your notifications if possible on both your laptop device and your phone if you have it nearby. And we also encourage you to keep a pencil and a piece of paper close by because this will help keep your hand busy, but it also gives you the opportunity to jot down any important notes that the speakers might be talking about today. If there's anything of interest for you, this is also something that we encourage you to take note of because, again, it'll help you maintain your focus throughout the session. This is a tip that you can also take into your future and help you avoid getting distracted by many things that might be popping up on your devices. The third tip is staying hydrated, and staying hydrated and really making sure that we're consuming enough water is something that we often take for granted, and we don't always forget the power that water can have on our body. So just a quick reminder to make sure that you're staying hydrated during the session and make sure that you're using that as a way to keep yourself energized. If we become dehydrated, it can actually slow down how our body is functioning, and this is something that can impact our concentration and performance. So with that, I hope you find these tips valuable. Hopefully you can take something away with you today, and thank you for listening. I will pass it over to today's speakers, Cheryl and Blue, to continue the session.
Great. Thanks so much, Kendra. That was some great messages there. I have my water and I have my treadmill next to me that I get on a couple of times a day because I know I need to move. Movement keeps our brain working well too, so super important. So I think we're going to start off with some introductions, right, Blue?
Yep.
I'll kick
Hi,
it off.
everyone. Welcome.
What's that?
I said, hi, everyone. Welcome.
Very exciting to be here today. My name is Cheryl Gliona. I am currently the Director of Organizational Performance for the Office of the President and COO at CGI, which means I manage a variety of things from business planning, quarterly reporting, a portfolio of projects, governance meetings, and more recently, actually, I've been working with CGI's artificial intelligence teams, as this is, of course, top of focus for the company. So I've worked at CGI for almost 13 years. It'll be 13 years in April. And I started in marketing communications. And thanks to CGI's strong support of rotations, I've gained a lot of insight and learning through positions in our CIO office, our CFO office, so our Chief Information Office, our Chief Financial Office, and special task forces like in productivity optimization. One of my biggest passions is creating environments where everyone feels like they belong, and empowered to be and celebrate themselves and one another. I am dedicated to numerous employee resource groups and have led campaigns and events that promote women and minority empowerment and raise awareness on everything from mental health, unconscious biases, and gender-based violence. Outside of the office, I'm on a committee that supports Montreal's youth protection, where I work with other amazing leaders to have direct positive impact on the young people in our youth centers in Montreal. And on a personal side, I just moved to the countryside north of Montreal, as being surrounded by nature is really important to me, and it's what ultimately brings that balance into my life. So I like to ski, I like to hike, I play golf, and I just enjoy getting outside on a regular basis to connect with nature. Um, on the topic of today, I've had a number of mentors in my life who've helped me professionally and personally, and I can't wait to talk to you all about that important subject today. I've known Blue for a few years now and would definitely consider her a source of constant inspiration and one of my mentors. Over to you, Blue.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I feel the same way. I think we've both asked for the other's advice on different things related to our career. So it's great to talk to you today and share what we talk about to the public. So my name is Blue Pate. I'm Vice President for Client Engagement in CGI's Canadian Infrastructure Business Unit. I've been at CGI for over 22 years now, and really focusing on leadership, portfolio and program management, business process improvements, helping our clients, and ESG. So a bit of my background. I have a degree in computer science, but right after I graduated, I was hired at CGI at their call center. So I stayed at the service desk and also in the incident management roles for a couple of years, but then I was involved in a project, and I saw the project manager and how the projects were going, and I just fell in love with projects. So I decided to jump into that world. I started as a PCO, moved to project manager, portfolio manager, and I was also at that time promoted to director, running our team for proposals and bids. During that time, I also paused my career twice for maternity leaves to build a family. So my two daughters definitely are my proudest accomplishments, I would say. But right when I came back from my second maternity leave, I was asked, that was in 2016, I was asked to help with a new client in building and leading their project management office. And this was really interesting because it was a global team of project managers and architects, and we were deploying projects really around the world. So that gave me great experience. I did that for about 5 years. In the meantime, in 2021, I joined our CGI's global ESG and climate groups, representing our CGI Canada for leading our net zero emissions by 2030 plans. So that's really great. You can check out CGI's ESG report that was just published for this year a couple weeks ago. Check that out on our website. And then about 2 years ago, so in 2022, I was promoted to vice president, handling a various array of Quebec and international clients for their infrastructure needs, and a team of about over 120 members here at CGI. I think definitely, Cheryl and I have known each other for a while, and it's just, we really bonded over our passion for this subject, for women's rights, and definitely equity and parity within that. So let's get into the talk. So if we're going to talk about mentorship and sponsorship today, I think we need to start with defining what exactly that is, and maybe more importantly, what's the difference between the two. So Cheryl, do you want to start with maybe defining what's mentorship?
Yeah, great. And like you said, there are, there are definitely differences between mentorship and sponsorship. So when we talk about what mentoring is, and I'll start in a formal sense. I'd say it is defined as a relationship between a mentor and a mentee, where both recognize the need for personal or professional growth, and they kind of set forth with a commitment and an actionable plan. And so now that I've kind of said that, and yes, that formal process is certainly part of what it is, and certainly if you go and Google it, you're going to find a similar definition. But to me, and I'm sure you're going to hear me say this more than once today, mentoring opportunities, they're all around us, and I believe they can be informal as well. So, for example, I would consider my boss to be a mentor. I would consider my colleagues, my friends, my family members can also be mentors. Um, an example here is I have one particular friend who, she's just brilliant on so many levels, and she's quite advanced in her career. And while, she's a really good friend of mine and we enjoy our fun times together, if ever I need career advice, she's also the one I'm going to call, and we'll put our friendship aside for a sec, and she'll get serious about helping me think through options. So I just like to kind of say that up front, because while formal mentoring is fantastic, and we will kind of get into some of the specifics on that today, and can certainly help us to achieve our key goals, just don't forget that you have mentors all around you and that you can tap into them at any time, right? And so, like we were saying, there's definitely a difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And Blue, I think you've got a good overview to give on what sponsorship is.
Yeah, thank you. I think you explained mentorship really well. So let's explore the sponsorship side of it. I think it's a little less known or less defined. So what I say about both of them, and maybe this will help clarify, is mentorship is someone who you can talk to, but sponsorship is someone who talks about you when you're not there. So the first thing about that is, why would someone talk about you? Why would they risk their reputation to sponsor you, or to refer you for a role, or to talk about you? It's because they believe in you. It's because they have to know you, and they have to believe that their reputation is on the line for a reason. So that's really important, because they need to know that you're able to do that role. But the other thing is, they need to know that you want it. So they have to be someone who understands your aspirations, your ambitions. And so I think that that's the two key things when we're looking at possible sponsors. The other thing is, they have to be someone with influence. They have to have power. They have to be someone who has influence, but in the area that you want to go to, or that you are looking to move into, even if you're not even sure where it is. If they're in that space, or they have that influential position, or that influential reputation, to be able to do that. And the example I like to give is my mom. So my mom is probably my biggest sponsor, if you will, my biggest fan. But she doesn't have influence in me getting my next job or anything like that. So as a cheerleader, she's great, and believe me, I call her for pep talks and all of that. But that's not where sponsorship is gonna go. So build your relationship, extending your network, building your reputation. That's really key to grow those sponsorship circles. And then once you have those people, make sure that they know what you're looking for. And we'll get into more of that as we go through the talk. So now that we've defined it, let's start understanding it more. So Cheryl, what advice would you give to women seeking mentorship opportunities, but unsure where to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so, if you're currently working, I would say first check to see if your organization has any mentoring programs, because that can be a really great start. At CGI, for those of our CGI members on the phone today, we do have a number of programs. We have formal mentoring programs that connect you with a mentor, that you can build a relationship with over the course of a long period of time. We also have numerous events, and I'm thinking of the one we had last week, which was just like so powerful, right? We held this worldwide mentoring event for International Women's Day, where we had quite literally a full day mentoring event where leaders and mentees were paired together, some in different locations in the world, and they got to connect on a range of topics that were pertinent to them. So just imagine this, right? CGI members across the world meeting via this virtual platform to support one another all day long. It was really quite something. So I would say, look out for these opportunities wherever you work. Look in to see if there is a formal mentoring program that is available to you, and sign up, right?
Yeah,
Um,
Cheryl, I participated on that last Friday, and I got to mentor this lovely woman in France. And even though we don't live in the same country, we realized very quickly that we had a lot of the same goals, a lot of the same struggles, and it was a really amazing conversation. That's a great point. That was such a fun day.
and I got to meet two women actually. And you know what? Even though it was just that, yeah, it was a 1 day event, but it didn't stop them from asking me to meet with them again. And one of them has actually taken the initiative to send me monthly meeting invites. And so we're going to
That's
meet
amazing.
on a monthly basis, and maybe that'll change to biweekly or whatever, depending on whatever her goals are, right? So take those opportunities, right? It might just be a one-time event, but you can turn this into whatever you want to turn it into. So on that note, while a program is obviously a huge benefit, you don't need a program to find a mentor. So I would say the first step to find someone right for you would be to start thinking of who could be a potential mentor for you. So, maybe like make a list of potential mentors, check out their backgrounds, look them up on LinkedIn, Google their name. It's kind of like looking for a job, right? Like a potential employer. You want to do your research and ensure there is a good fit before you walk into that interview, right? And then I would say, determine your objectives and goals. So, are your objectives broad? Are your objectives very specific? Do you want to develop a skill? Are you looking for just general career advice? I've had mentees who had the goal of making more time for themselves. And so we worked on a plan for that. Um, you know, a personal experience. I remember when I joined the CFO team, so the chief financial office. I had no very minimal background in finance, right? This was all new to me. And so one of the very first steps I took was getting to know the leaders in finance and asking one of them to be my mentor. And and then you're going to want to have goals to reach before your mentoring meeting. So for example, you could have the goal of listing out 5 questions to ask your mentor. In my case, when I was in finance, my goal was to read CGI's annual financial results report, front to cover, and highlight all the areas that I needed to understand better. And I tell you, almost the entire book was highlighted. But I went into that mentoring meeting with my mentor fully prepared, and he could really understand then where there were some areas that I needed to focus on. And then finally, I would say, set up a plan and check in on that plan often. So um, In other words, you got to hold yourself accountable, right? So you've done your research and you have your goals and you have your objectives defined. Write out a plan for next steps. So this could be to reach out to 5 potential mentors within the next month. This could be to schedule a coffee with one of them, just to see if there's any interest in mentoring. And then, once you've decided on a mentor, you've got to take obviously that step to set up those regular meetings and then share your goals and commit to hearing constructive feedback, right? Because that's also super key in the whole mentoring process, is being open to that constructive feedback so that you can, of course, improve. So maybe now I'll throw one back at you, Blue. What are some of the common misconceptions about mentorship and sponsorship for women, and how can we address them?
All right, misconceptions. Yeah, I think there's definitely some for mentorship. With mentors, I think probably the biggest misconception that I hear is someone thinks they need to keep the same mentor forever. And the thing is, the whole idea of mentorship is growth. So it's very normal to change mentors or to have many mentors at the same time that will give you different angles or different aspects to what you need to grow. But the mentorship relationship needs to be flexible. And so when I was looking to become a vice president, I had 2 mentors. Okay, they were women, they were in CGI and VPs. And so they gave me amazing guidance to support me as I navigated towards that goal. And even when I was promoted to VP, they helped me navigate that first year, which is really tricky because you're doing all the things for the first time and going through the different cycles of the financial cycles and the different quarters of the year. And so it was amazing. But now that I'm in my second year, and as I'm going, on to thinking about, what's next, and as I refine the role that I'm in, I moved on to like having different mentors. And I think that that's amazing because you're growing. The other thing I've done is a couple months ago, I actually reached out to a mentor of mine from many years ago. So at the time, he was a VP, I was a director at the time, and he gave me amazing advice. And we were in that mentorship role, and we stayed in touch. We kept in touch. He's followed my path and my growth. But now I reconnected with him because I felt now he's a senior VP. I'm a VP now. What I need is different. The advice, that I need or how I've grown is different, but we've both grown. And so he can give me a different aspect now because he's in a different role and he has the additional experience from, maybe 8 years ago when he was mentoring me. So I think just stay really open to those relationships shifting as you move forward in your mentorship. The other thing, so sponsorship. So this is definitely, I think, the biggest misconception of anything that has to do with both of them. And as I have now moved into an influential position and I have become both a sponsor and sponsored, I understand the frustration, I would say, even more with when this misconception comes up. So here it is. You cannot ask someone to be your sponsor. And so it's not the same thing as mentorship where you can say, hey, can we get a coffee? Can you be my mentor? You really need someone who's going to vouch for you. And like I said in the beginning, put their reputation on the line. So it can't be someone that you are just coming up to for the first time that doesn't know you. They need to get to know you. So you need to build that relationship. You need to build the reputation that you have around. And it's a much more organic or natural relationship that comes up, So when you build your relationship and you do an amazing job and you build that network around you, and building and then also with those relationships, making sure that they know your ambition, the sponsorship relationship just comes by itself that way. So it's doing all of the right things to place yourself, but it's not going out and saying, hey, do you want to put your name on the line for me, not knowing who I am or anything about me? It's just not realistic. So I think once people understand that and they shift that perspective, that's when you really can get a really great circle of sponsorship. So let's go to something else, Cheryl. How about I think maybe what women want to know is how they navigate the dynamics of a mentorship relationship. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm sure we can answer this question in a number of ways. I think some of the key things to kind of navigating the relationship, first and foremost, mentoring takes trust, right? And it also takes courage to trust. Um, so for me, I had to be open and honest and humbled that there were some things that I didn't know. I mean, the whole point of reaching out to a mentor is to work on areas of improvement, right? Um, so and I remember when I first reached out, and I'll use the example again of the mentor I had when I was in the finance team, and I didn't have that financial background, but I was a director, and I thought, I should know this stuff, And so I had to be humbled and find someone that I could trust and that I could kind of go to and say, I don't know this stuff, and I'm almost a little embarrassed that I don't know this stuff. But I mean, if I don't reach out to anyone and find the answers, well, then I'll never know this stuff, right? So I would say start there. Be ready to be honest, open, and humble, and acknowledge that you have room for improvement, right? Uh, and I guess maybe just to add to that, remember that we've all been there, right? Things like the imposter syndrome creep up on us all the time. It creeps up on me all the time. I think to myself, why am I in the position I'm in today? Why do you all want to hear from me today, right? I don't have all the answers, and everything I do will help me to improve little by little. So having that courage to reach out to others, to express that you need insight, support, a skill that you want to improve, that is a sign of growth, and it's only going to lead you to good places. Um, Finally, I would say you need to be able to invest the time it takes to effectively navigate the mentoring process. So, this is something that takes time, it takes commitment. I mentioned that before. So, just kind of reiterating that. You need the commitment to follow up on the discussions that you're going to have with your mentor. Remember, you're each taking time out of your days with the goal of improving something for you. And your mentor is taking that time out of their day and committing to you to help support your growth. And that's going to take a bit of work, right? It's going to take work on your end, and it's going to take being ready to follow up with your mentor. Um, to add to that, I would say, we're in this world of virtual meetings. We're on a virtual meeting today, but I'd add that nothing beats being in person. So if you can be in person, if you have a mentor who's in the same location as you, um, meet them face to face. There's definitely a deeper bond that's going to take place when you're face to face. It's proven that it boosts active participation from you both. It provides clarity through things like body language. And I'd also say that it certainly helps to establish trust a lot faster and stronger. So I think that goes to say for so many things, certainly through the mentoring process as well. But even just trying to find mentors, we gotta show up, right? We gotta show up in person, and these things will kind of happen a lot quicker for you when you are there in person. I'm sure there's a lot that we could add to that, but those are my kind of two key pieces of advice for now. So maybe back over to you, Blue. How can women leverage sponsorship to break through barriers and shatter glass ceilings in male-dominated industries, as we are?
I I love that question. Okay, so so the
I love
first
that
thing,
question too,
yeah,
and I can't wait to hear your answer because I know it's going to be good.
yeah, we kept some of the answers secret. So this one, and I want everyone to listen. Everyone, all the viewers, Cheryl, you listen too. You can
I'm
do it.
listening to everything you say, Blue. I always do.
But you can do it. You can definitely smash those ceilings. You can definitely. You just need to believe in yourself. And when you do that, I know that you can. And especially in a male-dominated field. You know, when I was growing up, when I was a young girl in IT, there really wasn't a lot of role models. There wasn't a lot of women role models in the executive levels. And so now we're seeing a lot more of that. We see many companies, on their board of directors at the C level that are women, and CGI is honestly a great example of that. Our CIO, Leslie McKay, is an amazing role model that I think we all, Cheryl, you'd agree, we all look up to. She actually kicked this career lab off last week. And if any of you haven't seen that, go back and see the recorded session there, because she's just fabulous. So I think, so I think with that, so you have to give yourself the best chance. So in order to give yourself the best chance, it is building your reputation. So you have to do a good job. Well, actually, you have to do a great job, but that is not enough, because I see, especially women, but I see a lot of people, and they're doing 110% probably busy with their current job, and just in their corner doing their job and doing it amazing, and thinking people will see that. And the reality is that that's not the case. And so if you want to really excel and go to those high levels, you have to do, I would say, more of that, but be smarter about it. So when you find ways to be seen by others, so be seen, and not only by your boss and your the extended network, to be able to show people what you're capable of, how you handle adversity, how you handle stress, how you handle the unknown. I would say that's where we're going to get for people, again, to be able to want to sponsor you, to be considered for these executive levels. And the other thing I would say is, when you do have the opportunity, for whatever reason, and it could be a networking event, it could be something to do with ESG, or any reason that you are around influential people or those executive level folks, think about how you're projecting yourself, how you project your brand, your intent, and your executive presence, because that's where that reputation will take you even further. And then, now you ended that question with in male-dominated field. And so with that, I would say that if you really want to excel to these and smash that ceiling, you have to be really comfortable with having male sponsors. And so the reality is, for now, that the majority of the influential people in these companies are in fact men. And I tell men this all the time. Male executive colleagues of mine, they have some of the greatest power to make change. They have some of the greatest power to shift these percentages of women in the executive roles. And they have a huge responsibility to that. And I see so many men stepping up to the plate as far as that. I worked really, really hard to become a vice president, to be promoted to the VP. But I know that I probably could have, the reality is, I probably could not have done it if it wasn't for some key male sponsors that sponsored me. And I never asked them to. They did it on their own. And so I think that you just have to be okay and very comfortable with being able to talk to those male sponsors about your ambition, about what you want, and building that reputation around them.
That's such great messages, Blue. And maybe, like, on that note, maybe we can just stick with that for a second. What role do you think organizations should play in facilitating mentorship and sponsorship opportunities for their women employees?
Well, Cheryl, you touched on it a bit actually before. So organizations need to have mentorship programs. They need to have ways of facilitating officially to bring those people together. And so I think, you talked about the International Women's Day program that we have at CGI. CGI does a lot of these mentorship programs. One that I really like, and it's not specifically for women, but we do ensure a parity within it, is what we call our CAP program. So CAP is our Key Achievers program. And this is something that highlights those up and comers and the folks we see as future leaders. And so it's a program, and I encourage all organizations to put those kinds of programs together. But it's a 1 year program. We have a small group that were specifically chosen, but there's training, there's networking, and they are each assigned a mentor and a coach. And so as their year progresses and they learn these things, they do that. And I've been a mentor or a coach for that program, and we didn't just stop at that 1 year. We kept going with the mentorship. So I think that that's definitely something that is required by organizations. But even more than that, they need to make sure that diversity and inclusion is part of their DNA. It must be part of the culture and built into the business plans. So you're not only concentrating on gender diversity, I would say in this space, it has to be all kinds of diversity. It has to be every single realm of diversity, and that can't just stay with gender diversity. But when you create that space of a company in its ingrained culture, having D&I as its way of working, that's where you're going to foster those relationships, the sponsorship. But the other thing I would say for organizations, they have to make sure that their senior leaders understand what sponsorship is and understand that they have the responsibility of sponsoring women, and that that's one of the key ways to change the dynamics around the percentages around diversity. So we need to make sure that those people in the company are educated on what it is to be a sponsor, how they can go about that, and feeling comfortable, so that the sponsors feel comfortable asking women about their ambitions and not making assumptions because of age, because of marital status, because they have kids, because they don't have kids, or any other bias that could occur. So we have to get rid of those and understand that biases do come up, and that we have to move past them when we're talking about the ambitions of women. And so I think that those are the things that companies need to do. The other thing they need to do is partner with external mentorship and women's organizations. So one of the things, and Cheryl, you and I were part of both of these, is the Dare to Empower program with Chloe Caron, the Ambition Challenge, or l'Effet A. These are programs that CGI has partnered with, and I was able to attend and be part of that and actually get executive coaching because CGI funded that. So that's a great example where organizations are coming in and doing that. It doesn't all have to be internal, but it's bringing in those external, those ones that really focus on women and know how to do that and are pros at that, bringing them in to help push the needle even further. But I think we need to talk about strategies. So Cheryl, can you talk about what strategies have you found most effective in seeking out mentors and sponsors? Because we talked about, you can't just go up and ask a sponsor. Maybe you can for a mentor, but how do you what kind of strategy really would you recommend?
Yeah, I think we've kind of embedded some of these answers into some of the other questions too. But I again, I'm going to start by saying, for me, and I would encourage everyone to see everyone around them as a potential mentor, right? Okay, so that's like strategy number one. Where's your potentiality of mentors? Everyone, okay, and you can tap into anyone whenever you want, hopefully, right? I mean, certainly if they're within your networks. So that would be kind of the first thing I would say. Now, you have to sometimes build those networks too, right? So in terms of strategies, I would say get involved, build your network. At CGI, we have, you had named some of those external programs that we have, Blue, and those are certainly important. We also have a number of things that anyone can get involved with at any time, right? We have a women's network. We have a BAME network. BAME stands for Black, Asian, Indigenous, and Minorities. We have an LGBTQ2IA plus network. We have a neurodiversity network. We have climate committees. We have an oxygen program that's, has all kinds of different committees around, mental health, physical health. So all of these are filled with really, really passionate people, and people that obviously have as a passion to support other people. And so this can give you a really great head start to growing your network of potential members. Next, I would say, you got to take a risk, right? So you've got to reach out, you've got to send an email, you've got to make a phone call. It's really quite that simple in a way. Um, at CGI, something that's really, really great at CGI is our employees are called partners, right? Because we are all owners of the company, and it's in our culture to work and collaborate together for the benefit of everyone. So it's really embedded in the leadership teams to build and support all talent and all partners at all levels. So I would say that our leaders are very aware that the new hires or the younger generations bring with them a wealth of new ideas to the table. And of course, we want to do everything we can do to support them to grow. So in other words, mentees are our future, right? And if you have the courage and take the risk to reach out to a leader for support, you're not only going to benefit yourself and the company that you're working for, you're actually already displaying leadership qualities, and that is something that any company should want to support and tap into. Um, in terms of also kind of seizing opportunity, right? Um, I'll kind of give a little anecdote here. I was at a conference once and I sat down next to this woman. We made eye contact, we started making small talk, and then we started joking around, and we got along really well, as everyone was taking their seats before the conference was starting. And this was like a room of 500 people. And when the key speaker was announced, she got up and took the stage. So I didn't even realize that I was talking to such an important and senior leader who was, in fact, kicking off the whole conference. So, we got along. She was a leader. She was a leader in the business world. She had a really easygoing side to her, and I was in this incredible position where luck had it that I had sat next to her, and therefore I was sitting next to her all day. And even though we were actually in a different location at the time, but I found out that she lived in Montreal near me, and so you can imagine I grabbed that opportunity, right? These opportunities are all around us. And of course, knowing now who she was, this of course added a layer of nervousness to it. But it just took that courage to kind of say, hey, can I get your card? Can I call you? And like, it was such a great response. She was more than willing. She even actually invited me over to her house for tea and conversation. And so, in fact, while we didn't have this kind of formal mentoring relationship in the end, she was someone that I could email for advice from time to time, and she always got back to me. Another strategy, and this is a little bit in line with what you were just saying, Blue, is grab opportunities that make you shine. Okay, so get out of your comfort zone. It's out of your comfort zone that the real amazing stuff is going to happen. And I remember during COVID, when COVID hit, and all of a sudden, like, we all went home, and all of a sudden there was this whole other set of priorities that the company had to focus on, right? And suddenly I was in the finance team, and suddenly I was getting all these things thrown at me that had nothing to do with my job description. Everything that I originally was doing was completely put aside, and all of these other things were put on my plate, like finances, like building a business continuity plan during COVID, completely out of my comfort zone. And so, this of course made me nervous, but I had a network of mentors that I could tap into. And I remember reaching out to someone, one of my mentors, and while I was expressing my concern to her that I had suddenly completely gotten outside of my comfort zone, she actually flipped this around on me and said, Cheryl, this is actually the perfect opportunity for you to show everyone, what you're made of and how versatile you are. And she gave me the advice, use your networks, use your resources. You're going to get through this. You're going to learn a ton, and you will show everyone that you can do anything they throw at you. And so that's what I did. And I remember I tapped into a lot of mentors doing and met, formal mentors, informal mentors, all kinds of people from all kinds of different networks. Just again, taking that risk, having that courage to pick up the phone and reach out, and that whole situation ended up opening all kinds of doors in the end. So how about you, Blue? Can you share a personal experience where mentorship or sponsorship played a significant role in your promotion journey?
Yeah, so I definitely will, and then I think I would love to hear the same from you, Cheryl. But then we can maybe answer some of the questions from the crowd. So we're
I see we're
getting
getting
some.
lots. That's
We
great. So
see,
keep them coming.
yeah, I see some of the ones in the chat. It's amazing. So let's try to get a couple of those. So I'll try to do it very quickly. But yeah, I think as far as the personal experience, I would have to go with what I consider to this day the best advice that a mentor has ever given me. And it's funny because we talked about her before, but Leslie McKay. So now the CIO, but at that time I was a director, she was a VP, and my kids were very, very young, and I struggled to envision or see myself as a VP. So I was a director, but my bosses and my sponsors were all asking me like, "What do you want for the future?" And I honestly at that time wasn't sure. And she told me, "Don't say no to anything. Just
Mm,
never close that door. And in the time when the time is right, you'll know. You'll figure it out." And thank goodness she did, because as I progressed in as a director and I realized, yeah, I do actually want this, and I want to do this, and I want to go through that, I was able to then pursue the goal fully. And I'm so glad I didn't close any of those doors at that time. So just keep yourself really open. But that definitely helped me in uh, becoming VP now.
or
Uh,
don't close them forever. Sometimes we do have to say, no, not right now,
yeah,
but
yeah,
but
exactly.
stay
But
open. Yeah.
especially when you're not sure, right? I mean, just keep an open mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to go with a personal experience? I'd love to hear one from you just before we jump into the some questions, because I
Sure.
know.
Yeah, sure. In terms of sponsorship, I can kind of give you the story of my promotion from being a manager in the CIO team to a director in the finance team, and that was actually a direct result of sponsorship. Um, and of course, like you were saying, Blue, like I wasn't aware any of this was happening behind the scenes, right? I didn't know this particular leader was sponsoring me and saying my name in a room of leaders. And so yeah, that's what happened. She saw an opportunity for me, and I wasn't even that I was it was an opportunity I wasn't even aware of. And she pushed my name in front of our chief financial officer. And to be honest, I actually only figured all of this out many months later. But what's important to understand is that this leader knew me. I never worked with her directly, but I had worked with her indirectly in many instances, and I had built obviously a good rapport with her. And I would say probably what put me ahead in that situation was that she had seen me in action with the women of CGI networks, and she could therefore attest to my leadership skills, my organization skills, and she knew I was ready for a new challenge. And then in terms of mentoring, like I'd have to say that my current boss is. He's not a formal mentor, but of course I meet with him on a regular basis, and he's a huge source of inspiration and motivation for me. And he's someone that's constantly throwing new challenges my way, and I and I often look at him a little cross-eyed and say, like, "Are you serious?" And he says, "Cheryl, I think you can do anything, and you have lots of people who will help you."
I
And
believe
so
that.
I and we can do anything, right? With the right support, of course we can do anything. So the amount of times I have thought to myself, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. And then, I reach out to my mentors, I reach out to my network, I build a plan, and suddenly I'm through it within no time, right? And we can all do that.
That's great. All right, Cheryl, you want to tackle some questions? I see one in the chat that I really, really want to get to.
Okay,
Um,
go.
I love this question. So I'm not sure who asked it, but it is, I'm curious about why professionals are motivated to mentor students, considering
Ah.
it requires them to dedicate their personal time. As students, we often feel like we have little to offer in return. So I I really want to answer this one. So as someone who mentors a lot, I feel after every mentoring session, no matter who it's with, I feel this energy that comes out at the end of it. And I always feel, even being the mentor, that I've learned something. So don't think that you don't have anything to give. But what I will say is, as you know, I remember being a student, I remember being a young professional, and I believe that it is part of my responsibility as an executive, as a woman, especially in tech, in a male dominated field, to give my time for mentorship. I believe that that is part of my job. It's part of my who I am ethically, or even taking time sometimes in my personal life to mentor friends or people who have reached out to me. So um, I do believe that we get something out of it, even if you students don't think so. But it is also time spent, in my opinion. It's an investment in the future, and I will always take that time. And I encourage all leaders, all executives to do the same, and because that is the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that there's so much to learn as a mentor as well, right? In all of the relationships I've had where I was the mentor, I've also learned a lot from my mentees. And when I think about students, I mean, especially in technology, right? And innovation, things are constantly changing. So they're learning about things in school that we haven't even thought about yet, right? So
Yep.
so to
My
say,
my 12-year-old daughter teaches me a lot
there you go.
all
There
the
you
time.
go. Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
definitely.
go. So I've like you said, I mean, the newer generations are our future. So there's just so much benefit for everyone in that relationship right there. Definitely. I see one here that I like. How can you build a relationship with a leader that leads to sponsorship? So one thing I think with one thing you can do. So again, you can't really ask someone to be your sponsor. That's just not the way sponsorship works, as Blue has said many times. But there's nothing stopping you from letting leaders know that you're ready for a new challenge, right? And I think that in many cases, when something new has been thrown my way, it's because I've let people know. I've let my boss know, or I've let my mentors know, or I've let people in in senior positions, like, oh, this is really interesting. You know what, I'm interested in this. If I can see myself doing this, I think that this is what I could add here. These are my skills that I could bring to the table, and you kind of like plant that seed, right? And then you step back and you hopefully you let that grow. I mean, Blue, you said so before too. It's building a reputation as well, right? And bringing that level of excellence to everything that you do. And when you do that, and when people see how much you shine, and you let them know that you're interested in something new, and you planted that seed, then that should take place quite organically with time.
Yeah, exactly. I think we have time for maybe one more question. I love the last one that just came in. How can I overcome hesitations about asking great people around me to mentor me? So I think, Cheryl, you gave some strategies. But one of the things that I love to ask people is, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is they say no. And the thing is, the mentors that you're going for, they're probably people who are very busy and have a million things going on. And uh, if they do say no, it has nothing to do with you. Then find a different mentor. Like then you weren't meant for that person, and maybe a year from now you will be, or in 6 months. But don't take it personally. So I think that that's it. If you just remove that, like, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then go for that. Again, it doesn't need to be a 5 hour session. It could be a half an hour for coffee. So try to make it where it's not too much of their time. So, and to have that first conversation. And then you can talk about, do you want to do it monthly or quarterly or ad hoc or whatever you want it to be. But just start out with something that's easy for them to say yes to, like a coffee. But again, I am someone that, well, Cheryl, very busy, and I do not remember ever saying no to someone asking me for 30 minutes of my time or an hour of my time when they needed advice from me. So I actually have there's a woman who is actually listening today who I don't know. I haven't met her, but yesterday contacted me on LinkedIn and asked me for some time with her. And so hi, but we have a half an hour booked next week, and I was too busy this week. And I asked her, well, let's do something next Thursday because I have a lot, well, as you can see, a lot going on this week. But yeah, I mean, just take a shot. And if they say no, don't take it personally. It's not because they don't want to. It's because they're probably going through a certain thing right now, and just take a chance.
Absolutely. That's great. Great advice. So I think we're wrapping it up now. Unfortunately, that went so fast, eh,
I
Blue? That was
know.
fun. That was fun. So to everyone on the call, thanks for joining. I would feel free to connect with either Blue or I via LinkedIn. Add us to your networks and reach out if you have any further questions. We'll be more than happy to connect with you. This Women in Tech Career Lab continues throughout the day. So don't forget to check those out. Thanks very much, everyone.